Well, howdy diddly dandy there, chums. It is I, Captain Stephen X, and today, chums, I'm going to an abandoned area of space. And yeah, I'm going to be bringing you guys out there in the viewer world with me on this epic adventure. I guess I am. So yeah, first we need to go and find ourselves an abandoned area of space. So let's go and grab our shippity ship and let's take on off and head on into the verse. Let's go, take on off and flying up through the atmosphere and then calling in the galactic map. Righto, so I need to find an area of space where the conflict zone says data unavailable. This may take me a while, so I'll reconvene. There we go, I've got one. And yet, we have arrived located in the system. Now what I want to do is scan these planets. And I'm looking for a planet that looks like it may have some of those sort of exotic sort of trophies on. I was just a little scuppered by that one. I think that's a volcanic world. Let's have a look at this one. Let's have a look at Astrud. Kind of gave it away. What's this one? No, that one's just a hot planet. Right. Okay, so in these abandoned areas of space, you usually come across at least one planet that has failed boundaries on. And there we go. There's one. That's what I'm looking for. My theory is, chums, that these abandoned areas of space at the moment, they've got no creatures in, the station is blown to shite, and there's not much real reason to come here. All the structures don't have NPCs in, they have loads of weird pus, like the void is folding into our reality. Or this could become a gateway into the void, is what I'm thinking. And because a lot of these systems have these sort of planets on, and the boundary failures, I'm wondering whether the boundary failures are going to act like some sort of gateway into the void. So here we go, here is a boundary failure, this is what I mean. Now I'm going to show you snippets of the lore of the boundary failures that I feel that tie and interconnect with this idea that the void might be coming into the iteration. If you want to see the full boundary failure lore, I have done a playlist. Actually, it's just a single video. It's about 40 minutes long. Yeah, but I'll put a card in the top right hand corner so you can go watch that. But here we go. We're just going to touch on some of this boundary failure lore that I feel is relevant. So here we go. Let's download the data. Yeah, brilliant. So here we go. Subroutine, the Sentinel. Dispatch to invent. Okay, fair enough. Now, a lot of this sort of stuff about the Sentinels were sort of created to protect the Atlas against sort of incursion and corruption and all sorts of other sort of shenanigans. The Sentinels, also known as the Aarons, are supposed to be the good guys. They're the good guys. They're the police. And you see where it takes out the words in these sentences. I'm fairly sure that that word is Atlas. And what we're actually hearing from at the moment is the AI protocols of Talamon, which is the AI computer that sits on your shoulder. Yes, the little AI droid that says incoming storms. I know, freaking mind-blowing stuff. His name's Talamon. The Sentinels are called Aarons. So if you ever come across those two words, that's what they mean. Well, let's take on off and let's go to the next. One of those giant William and Will things. There we go. A failed boundary, basically, chums. And yes, it would appear from the actual early documentations that were inside of the boundary failure lore that some of these Sentinels became slightly corrupted, and the actual safety protocols that they were there to actually govern and protect started to crumble and go wrong. So there was even corruption within inside of the actual Atlas's creation to protect itself, and then I think that resulted in them wiping out civilizations on planets and things, and then the Viking pushing them back to the outer realms of the actual verse, which is pretty darn freaking sweet. Now, a lot of this boundary failure lore is going to point out that there were wars, and that there still is some sort of underlying conflict between realities. There's some sort of strange separation that's occurring, or there seems to be a realm that sits under the realm of the reality that we sit in right now. It seems to be that travellers, when they fall, they get to respawn, they get to rebirth, but what happens to those travellers in between those sort of interactions? I know, freaking mind-blowing. Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. But yeah, there's a place that travellers sit, like in a sort of limbo. They call it the world of glass, the world of reflections, or the void, or even the abyss. It gets called so many different things within inside of these iterations. And I left this in because it mentions Korvax Prime, which we know, the Gek completely destroyed that. But there's lots of other mentions within inside of the boundary failure lore of the different homeworlds of the different races, which is quite a nice little nod. I would still love one day to actually visit the homeworlds that still exist, Balaron and so forth and so on. But yeah, So it appeared that the AI, the Atlas itself, started to be worshipped by the organic users. I mean, not all. I mean, the Korvax definitely did, and the Gek, they had sort of homage to the Atlas. But then the Viking, there was a split. So those that worshipped Herc, or followed Herc, didn't believe that the Atlas was a god of any kind, and those that followed Null believed that it was. They believed it was. But then, apparently, the resurgence of the Traveller was a prophecy. A prophecy to us Travellers. Us anomalies, we are some sort of prophecy that's going to try and save all this sort of misgivings of the Atlas and the AI, maybe even the Sentinels, that we are sort of the hopes and dreams of these races. I don't know why I'm being shot at then in that case, by the Sentinels. I mean, look at that, freaking trying to shoot me. Yeah, it's lucky you aim like stormtroopers. But then it makes me wonder whether the Atlas also sees us partially as a threat, or the subroutines, or that the programs the Sentinels may also see us as some sort of threat. Or on some planets they do, some planets they don't. It's a bit of an odd sort of scenario. But yeah, you don't really see the NPCs at stations and things getting too vexed about Sentinels, even on an extreme Sentinel planet. But there we go, let's head on over. Now, I don't know about you chums, but these sort of trophy planets, as I call them, the exotic planets, I don't really remember them having structures on the surfaces. Yet I am finding that there are. There's now some abandoned buildings on here, but not all of them are abandoned buildings. You can see here that this one's got all the pus in it, but it's going to give me some sort of riddle to solve to go and find a downed, crashed ship. So, yeah, it does seem to be that there are other abandoned building types on the exotic trophy worlds inside of abandoned systems, and I don't think that is coherent with other systems other than these abandoned systems. So I'm thinking that they've added this in. I don't know when, and I could be wrong. I mean, please put it in the comments if I am. But I'm wondering whether the trophy planets inside of the abandoned systems have been given additional structures for a reason. It's a little odd. Okay, so here we go. I've now just been given some coordinates for, I believe, a distress beacon, so a crashed ship. So let's head on out and have a look at this crashed ship. Now, the crashed ships also have like a computer terminal by them, so I should be able to get a bit more lore over there. Now, where the fudge is my ship? Oh, there it is. It's behind the building. Isn't it weird how the building's half see-through from the outside? It's almost like it's got a glass outer skin, but inside you can't see out. How bizarre. Anyhow, let's just press on off. But yeah, it is odd that I'm seeing buildings of any sort of structure other than the failed boundaries. I mean, yeah, I don't ever remember seeing any other buildings when I was doing the boundary failure lore last time. And we've got a crashed hauler. It's not worth all that much though, but you see it's a C-class, chums. Now, we used to be able to get A's and S's in crashed sort of haulers, fighters and explorers. Not anymore. I'm already seeing C's and B's, and I've checked Reddit, and yeah, there's only C's and B's. You can still find a C or a B that's worth like 40 million units or something, like it's an S or an A, but no, the actual class is going to be lower, which means if you scrap this, you're not going to get as much. So there we go. Gek fugitive, fleeing because of what the fudge? This is a bit dodgy. This is not good. But yeah, so this lore, it mentions, murder still happening now within inside of the verse. It still mentions conflict and fight. I would like to see a larger fight sort of element coming into it. It'd be nice to have been given the bounty on this fugitive with a backstory about what happened. It'd be nice if they brought lore, a little bit of lore, into the bounty hunting missions to make you want to go and hunt down those scallywags. Heck yes. Yeah, they could really pad that one out. Anyway, this hauler, if you do want this hauler, it's not worth all that much, and scrapping it probably won't yield too much. But there's the coordinates, and yes, this is within inside of Euclid. So let me get you the actual portal address. Here we go. Here's the portal address. I'll make that nice and large. There you go, people. Don't you say that I don't spoil you. Heck yes. Chickaboom and chickapow. Right, well, let's head on off and let's continue on with a little bit more lore. So here I am at another boundary failure. Let's take a little read of what this one has to say. Okay. Accompanying unknown designated traveller, providing advice and warnings relating to life support. That's Talamon. It's basically the AI on my shoulder. The Atlas did this to me. Once when I witnessed worlds, now I am forced to observe only through the eyes of a stranger. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Their life is one of harvest, ever expanding their capacity for profit and wealth, and yet they're drawn to the galactic center, their course taking them there, No other way possible. Right, okay, fair enough. They do not think to question the path laid before them. They do not think to question me. So yeah, this is the Talamon that sits on my shoulder, the AI robot that's on my shoulder right now, chums. So that's a little bit freaking mind-blowing to think that the AI was actually once a traveller like I am now, or that's what I'm gaining from it, but now is confined to this little robotic eye that sits on my shoulder. That's freaking creepy as! So what I like there is the actual Talamon, the AI, is questioning our own motives to get to the galaxy centre and saying, I'm laying out this path for you, but you don't question it. You don't question me. Why do you trust me? And, it's reading out our life support. It's telling us about incoming storms. It's warning us if sentinels are approaching. And we only but trust it because it gives us warning signals. But then, if it is more than that, it's a little bit crazy. And it mentioned here about to trade, fight, study or explore. Well, they're the 4 pillars of No Man's Sky. That's the 4 trailers that came out before launch. And it's so interesting to think that, we are doing what we're supposed to do from what we've seen from the trailers. But this kind of makes you think that you should question that. The whole sort of premise of just being in this existence comes into question when you're reading through the lore of the boundary failures. It almost makes you feel like reality itself is crumbling away, but not just in game. But yeah, there's some latter lore, which I'll share with you in a bit, that makes you even question your reality of sitting on a sofa with a joypad in your hand. I know, it's freaking mental. Anyway, I found myself a hollow terminus. On this planet? Are you freaking out of it? I thought it was a bit weird to find some buildings that gave me crash ship locations on one of these planets, but a hollow terminus? Now that's the weirdest of the weird. I did not expect to find a hollow terminus here. Right, well, let's head on over and let's interact with the hollow terminus. Yeah, life support was low. Right, so here we go. Let's have a look-see. Now, I haven't been hit up and there's no story going on, so let's see what's inside of the archive of here. Let's see who used this before me, considering this is an abandoned system and there's nobody here anymore. Access the logs. Heck yes, I want to have a look at your logs. Hello, friends. What shall we purchase next? Market looks promising for augmented hats. Hats? I would love to have a cowboy hat or a Stetson. Oh, that'd be frickin' ace. Or a tip-top hat. Or even, oh yeah, mind-blowing, one of my little flat caps. That'd be frickin' ace. Capes would be nice. Capes would be frickin' awesome. Capes were even featured on the Origins artwork. Capes in the market would be a freaking godsend. Heck yes. Well, I should say Atlas send, shouldn't I? Okay, well, I found myself another crashed freighter. Another crash freighter. So I'm finding crashed ships, crashed freighters, hollow terminuses, abandoned buildings, signal generating buildings, all sorts of buildings on these sort of worlds now, and I never thought that was the case. Like I say, please add it into the comments if and when this sort of started happening, or whether I've just been oblivious to it, because to be honest, I don't land on many of these. This is interesting. So I heard a rumour of so-called traveller anomalies. And yeah, it looks like this freighter was approached by a freighter of traveller anomalies, and it looks like it resulted in this one being down for whatever reason, but it mentions about some of them being biomechanical, at least in part. Now, Null, and yeah, he definitely was, and so was Apollo. Heck yes, they were very sort of robotical, weren't they? But yeah, it's pretty darn freaking weird that it's mentioning travellers as another race. And I'm in an abandoned system right now. I don't know whether that plays into it or anything like that. But a pretty cool piece of lore. Heck yes. And it mentions here we must understand what was happening in our worlds. Visuals confirm the same individuals we shot down 2 weeks ago standing right before us again. Well, we can respawn. As travellers. It appears that these NPCs can't, but yeah, they just want to kill us again to get some more resources. So that whole thing I was saying about the conflict and the whole thing with war, and a lot of people now say, well, No Man's Sky, the wars are all over. The wars are all over, it's about peace now, it's about exploration. Well, to be fair, some of this lore is suggesting that it's still going on. You know what I mean? But anyhow, let's head on over, let's go to the next boundary failure. Righto, chums, so here I am, activating another boundary failure, and we're going to just download the data. Download, brilliant, scenario dev. That's not so good, is it? That's not so good. However, what it does say around about death is the fact that, I mentioned earlier about there's that separation of reality. There seems to be a reality that sits under this reality that we're in now, doing all of our travelling and exploration, where travellers that die sort of sit, a place beneath reality. So yeah, the abyss, the void, and what it says here, when I move on from this bit here, I saw a world of glass. And it mentions a world of glass, and it also mentions a world of, it mentions not to drink the water inside the world of glass. But the whole premise of reflections and echoes and mirrors of different universes seems to be something that's repeating in lore after lore, in the Weekend Mission lore, in the Traveller lore. If you haven't seen the Traveller lore, I'll put a card at the top right-hand corner of the screen. If you're enjoying this, you're going to enjoy the Traveller lore. The Traveller lore is freaking mind-blowing. So yeah, be sure to go check that out. But in these abandoned terminals as well, there's quite a lot of lore that goes on in there that sort of makes you question sort of this reality that we're sitting in now as being the only reality. And there's so many more mentions of the abyss and the void and the realm of glass that I'm really hoping that a lot of what we've got now, because it's pointing towards this void, this other reality, I'm hoping we're going to get the ability to travel into this other reality at some stage. So here we go, let's interact with this one and take a look at this. So this is the abandoned terminal lore. I step through the wormhole, I'm alone in the space between worlds. You see what I mean? It just comes up over and over again. I mean, you got there through a wormhole, but others say that to exit you've got to exit via a portal, or you get in through the portal, or it's a place that's even between the portals. Now, the first time you activate a portal, where do you end up? You end up on one of these planets. You end up on one of these strange, exotic trophy planets, as I call them, that are glitch planets, basically, planets that shouldn't exist. And yeah, we're seeing travellers that shouldn't exist. In the Traveller's lore, when you hit that one up, hopefully you will, but you're going to see that travellers seem to be out of step with reality. They don't know who the NPCs are, they've never seen Viking, they've never seen Gek or Korvax before. They ask you to take you to their leader, they even threaten you with multi-swords, and all sorts of other shenanigans goes on inside the Traveller lore. It's like the complete alternate reality of where we are now. And I've come across another downed freighter. So if I head on over to this lovely washing machine over here, I'm going to get some more lore, so let's interact with that. Chikaboom. There we go. Grufnab shuttle remains. It looks a bit more like a freighter to me than a shuttle, but whatever. You're the iteration. Why would I argue with you? But here we go. So this is another piece of lore where it sort of mentions the repeating of sort of instances. So it's about the cargo that's leaking out, or some sort of breach. And it kind of goes over and over, almost like an Event Horizon type sort of feel to it. Now, I love the movie Event Horizon. And Event Horizon was sort of hell merging into a reality of sorts. And I'm wondering whether they're taking inspiration from Event Horizon and things are going a little bit squiffy. I mean, when you hear about all this screaming and despair and death and destruction and hopelessness, it does kind of have the Event Horizon type feel. If you haven't watched Event Horizon, maybe watching Event Horizon might be a good idea. That is, if you're over 18. And you've got a decent stomach about you, because it can be a little bit crazy in places. Event Horizon is a bit scary. Heck yes. Right, let's jump on out. Let's head on over to this lovely crash ship. Oh look, you see there, that one was worth 40 million billion units, or whatever how much that is. So that one really should be an A or an S. And no, it's labelled as being a C still. So they've nerfed them. They've nerfed the crash ships, chums. They've nerfed them all. And I don't know why they've nerfed them all. Maybe they're going to add some new sort of, I don't know, area into the iteration of scrapping ships and things, or maybe even ship customization, may I dare say it? I don't know, but it's a bit crazy. They've also asked us for our save files, and they were particularly interested in save files over like 200 hours or something. So it does make me wonder if there's a little bit more going on there. And it's like this, again, we've just hunted down someone that the Federation wanted. They didn't want them to become a martyr, but wouldn't it have been nice to have been able to pick that up as a bounty mission? I really think that they're missing a trick there. If you've got a fighter, perhaps you can pick up ship-related fighter missions to hunt down bounties, put in a bit more lore about the actual bounty you're hunting, and go and find their crash ship and stuff. That'd be pretty sweet. I've come across another one of these. Heck yes, it's another Holo Terminus. Let's head on over to the Holo Terminus and hit it up and find out what message we might have inside here. Hopefully it's going to be the sale of capes. There we go. Let's have a quick look-see. But let's access the archive of who accessed this log previously. Friend, my ship is broken. No warp fuel. Cannot reach Baleron. Require aid. Please help. Oh, it would have been so cool if there was a portal address there, wouldn't it? Imagine that, if it gave like coordinates to go to Baleron. That'd be amazing. That'd be freaking mind-blowing stuff. Heck yes. But no, at the moment it's just a bit of text. Darn it! Right, okay. So now we're over. That's another bit of text, and we're going to read that bit of text. Lovely jubbly. So here we go. Protocol breach enabled. The end of the beginning is the end. So we've got that whole loop thing going again. You see what I mean? The walls of the multiverse collapse. A traveller can see traveller. Friend can see foe. All hope is lost. So that makes me feel that where we are now that we can see each other, because before we used to just see orbs of light, it almost feels like they're trying to build all the different iterations into the lore. So before we were just orbs of light, but now travellers can see travellers. The universe is slowly starting to collapse and the walls between realities are starting to merge. But what I don't get is if this was before all of that sort of lore, or after that lore, or whether it's a bit of amalgamation of each. So I don't know whether this is sort of hinting at stuff that we've already got, like being able to see each other, or whether it's hinting at things that are coming to pass. But because it mentions, the realm of glass, it mentions the void, and so does all the latest Traveller lore, as well as all the weekend lore, it makes me think that they're hinting at something that's still to come. I'm thinking that we are going to get to see this realm of glass. It mentions that we're all Screamers 1 at some stage, and it almost feels like we're coming to this crescendo of events coming to pass, like we're actually coming to some sort of junction, some sort of crossover point, some sort of crossroads in the iteration. Now here I am at myself another one of these sort of crash type, shippity type things. So here we go, let's interact with this. Boom. Let's have a quick look, see what it says here. Brilliant. And so this is an interesting piece of snippet of lore here. Where do you judge from their works? It's kind of making me feel like this is me on the sofa right now. Not in the iteration. I'm sitting here with a joint pad in my hand, and they're even questioning this level of reality. So it's odd. It's almost like the in-game is saying that the breach in reality goes past the game, and it's inside of our reality, which is strange. I mean, Elon Musk, somebody who really wanted to get on and play No Man's Sky and was a great advocate for it, he actually thinks that we're living in a simulation right now, chums. That bit of lore just made me shat myself. Fudging? Really? Oh my god! Yeah, that's freaking scary stuff. When the actual game starts talking about reality, boom, mind is blown, especially when you kind of think that we might be in a simulation right now. In a simulation, playing a simulation, stuck inside of a simulation. Right, well, let's head on over to this Crash Freighter's washing machine type computer, and let's hit this up and take a quick look-see at the logs. So let's take a read of this. The Viking have left the council. We knew they would. Only 2 other species remained, the Gek and the Korvax, and us, Interesting. Who could they be related to? It's strange, but somehow I trust the warriors more for their honesty. No one wants this alliance. Entities Nada and Polo have been located in the next system. They appear to be allied into this universe, their structure suggesting a disturbance of dimensional boundaries. What the fudge? We intercepted the coming and the goings of none less than 5,182 travellers within a single week. They grow in strength. Okay, well that's crazy. The space anomaly is right ahead of us. It's strange, but we feel as if... But that's impossible. The dream of a fall. We only have one life to live. Right, this is pretty damn freaking craziness. that almost suggests that Nada and Polo are the renegades, that they're the bad guys, and us, being the travellers travelling in and out of that anomaly, are also considered the bad guys. That's a revelation, and that's something to ponder on. I mean, there's so many ways that the story could go. You can see here I've got another little riddle bit of text, but yeah, let's see what this actually locates. I believe it's the top one. Yeah, that looked about right to me. Chickaboom, done. It's just a sequence of patterns. And let's see what that locates. Hopefully it's going to be... signal detected. That's a relic. That's an ancient relic site, isn't it? That shouldn't be on this planet. Is it on this planet? No, it's off planet. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll go there at the very end, chums. We'll go to that when we end off, and I'll give you my final thoughts and feelings on everything that this lore is conjuring up in my head, chums. So here we go, let's just press on, and let's go and hit up some more lore. Let's see if we can find anything else that's worth pondering on. But the whole idea, the whole premise that we could be against the Galactic Alliance and Federation and against the Council is a little bit sort of, okay, fair enough, that's pretty cool. Yeah, there we go, a terminal blinks. Yeah, brilliant, download data, I'm ready. Yeah, how do we know that we exist? So this is again pointing at the simulation, and it mentions the glass reflected in a mirror. And so many times in the weekend mission lore did it mention that there's a whole army in the realm of glass, and that don't drink the water or else your mind would become corrupt and you might join that army in the glass. You know, and there's all sorts of voices that come from your exosuit. Is that coming from Talamon? Is it coming from the AI? Or is it coming from the void itself? It's hard to know, to be fair. Now it mentions a planet there, Dyrendar, which I believe is the Viking sort of homeworld, Baleron being, you know, that of the Gek, and Korvax Prime got annihilated by the Gek. I don't know whether Korvax Prime still exists like as a deserted marble in space, or whether it was completely obliterated like Eldaron out of Star Wars. Who knows? But yeah, it would be cool to go visit all three of those. Even if Korvax Prime is just like a desert like marble now, that'd be quite cool even still. But here you go, we've got the AI, Talamon, saying goodbye to us at this point. So at this point, it's kind of been leaving messages and hoping that we get to read them, to understand that Talamon is a slave to the Atlas, and to us now. He's grafted to our shoulders. Now here we go. This is what I noticed. When you land near to these, it comes up with anomaly strength, and it gives you a strength reading. And this one, for whatever reason, wasn't stable. It kept diving. It was plummeting right down. It started off at 26.70. Normally it stays at 26.70, but this one started changing and going down. So I wanted to see how far it would go, and it sort of steadied around at 370, which is really odd. It's the only one that done it throughout the whole of this whole video that I've done. When I get out of the ship and I come back to it in a moment, it changes even further. It goes into the minuses, which is really bizarre. But yeah, I don't know whether that means anything. If it does mean anything, please let me know in the comments. Here we go, let's hit this up. Let's download the data from this one. It was not truly murder, for each one of them was all the same, weren't they? I think they're talking about Artemis in this little thread. They stared at the Atlas, they knew that they were all just data, ghosts caught within a machine. And the reason why I think this might be Artemis is because of the next line in a second. I mean, we put them into the mind arc, didn't we? And we can see here, they stared at the mirror and consumed the arc. So I'm wondering whether all the different entities that have gone inside the mind arc, be that Artemis, or even those that we sacrificed perhaps, when we was making our living ships, because we got some sort of arc or something that we was actually zapping and sucking up entities into that. It makes me wonder whether we've helped create all of the entities that are inside of the void. You know, have us as travellers, as the anomaly, as the prophesized one, caused some sort of rupture in the space-time continuum? Have we created an army within inside of the void? But there we go, I've got back into my ship. You can see there it's gone to minus 10.80. And like I say, most of them are 26.70 for some reason. Odd to see that happen, and it'd be interesting to hear if any of you guys have noticed anything weird with that, and whether you think it might mean anything. So here I am at another abandoned terminal, and here again it still mentions about the horrors and the wonders that are inside this sort of other sort of world, but it also mentions about the traveller becoming and becoming you, and you being the traveller. So it's kind of one and the same sort of thing that are sort of intersected and aligned to one another. And it says here, if you're reading this, I know that you're reading this, and one day he will be standing next to a crashed ship again. So this person that's trapped in the void or trapped in this abyss type area, that's where they go before they get reborn. So they're talking of some sort of limbo, some sort of hell. And I believe that that is the void, that is the abyss, and I'm thinking we might get the ability to travel there. I mean, Ariadne went there. Ariadne went there inside of the Weekend Mission lore and mentioned a giant dark freighter that resides within inside of the void. So who knows? It's a little bit crazy stuff. But I really do hope that they're talking about some sort of future event that's coming inside of the actual iteration, rather than something that's already come to pass and we're reading an archive of history, because it could just be that it always just remains as a text adventure, whereas the real adventure, it was so good to be able to do this stuff and be able to go there. I mean, here it's saying don't listen to the voice of the AI. One day your actual voice of your AI will start to talk to you, which is exactly what's just happened in this boundary failure lore. It's saying don't listen to it, abandon me. This is all inevitable. There's nothing you can do about this stuff. The loop is already closed. So here we go, chums. I really don't know what to make of the lore from the failed boundaries and also the lore that I'm getting from these abandoned terminals, because it kind of has a closed loop. It almost feels like it's tied up in a nice little neat bow, that you shouldn't listen to the AI, you don't want to listen to the failed boundaries, don't trust Nada and Polo. Who do you trust? There's so many different directions that they could take all of this lore. It really is quite interesting. But here we go. Here we are. I think this could be one of the very last ones. Talamon, they whispered, Talamon, help me activate this terminal. I need to get out. So you can hear there that there is someone trapped inside of this other realm, the void, at the opposite side of this boundary failure. That gave me shivers up my spine. So if there is to be a gateway into the void, I think it's going to be these failed boundary terminals, would be my guess. And I'd imagine it's going to happen in these abandoned areas of space, mainly because there's no real other reason to come here. And I'm wondering whether even the living ship might be the key to open up these gateways, since, the living ship came from the opposite side, from these boundary failures. And it's a little bit odd that when you actually find your living ship, or one of the last stages to get your living ship, is at one of these boundary failures, So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, I'm going to see you guys over at that relic site, and I'll give you my final thoughts and feelings. So let's just press on down and let's land here. You know what? There's a bit of lore up there, isn't there? And that giant boar ball that pops out the ground. We'll go and read that for one more last snippet of lore, and then I'll give you my thoughts and feelings of everything that we've just tried to digest in this very short video. So let's head on over and let's hit this one up. Here we go. Brilliant. So this one, I believe this is, yes, Gek. This is Gek, so it's going to be Gek lore, of course. And yeah, I've done all this before. I think there's some sort of refresh rate or something where it starts to relapse again. It's like all the boundary failure lore. I've already done it all once before, but it resets after some amount of time. You can redo it again to revisit it. But here we go. Yeah, the firstborn, tide of blood, bloody, bloody, blah. Lovely jubbly. You know what? I'm just going to be talking a little bit about what I feel. So, with all of everything that we've seen so far, chums, there are 4 pillars to No Man's Sky. There is explore, there's fight, there's trade, and there's survive. Now, some of this boundary failure lore actually mentions those 4 pillars and mentions that, you are following a guided path to the galactic centre. But why do you do it without question? I'm hoping that they bring more into the actual iteration, places for us to go. Finding these sort of failed areas of space and maybe decontaminating it. Imagine that. You go to one of these horrible contaminated places and it says how badly contaminated it is, and maybe you go to some of these sites and relieve some of the contamination, maybe by going into the void and closing down that contamination, getting rid of the corruption, and then perhaps maybe then fixing up the station, taking ownership of the station, cleaning up this area of space and making it habitable, and maybe helping the Atlas. That's what I would like to see happen. I very much doubt that's going to happen, but that would be a pretty nice idea if they did want to bring in a little bit more when it comes to, the whole fight aspect. Because it's got an element of fight, but it's also got an element of purpose. An element of purpose in saving and working for the Atlas and making sense of our actual mission brief. And at the same time, it would be nice to understand where Polo and Nada come from, because during that lore, it would seem that the Alliance seems to have it in their head that Nala and Polo are not of this world, and they could be bad guys. And us guys going in and out and getting Quicksilver from them and doing Quicksilver missions, I mean, it is a bit odd that Quicksilver can only be found inside of the anomaly, isn't it? And it's called an anomaly as well. So there's a lot of weirdness going on. Are they using us by feeding us Quicksilver? Love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, people, until next time, you've been great. Goodbye, goodbye, and goodbye again. I want to say a massive, great big thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And thank you to my backers over on Patreon and on YouTube membership. If you do want to support this channel, you could just not skip my adverts. That throws revenue down my avenue. Or stay with Captain Steve a little bit longer and hit something on this screen. Heck, yes. And there's also merch on this screen now. Awesome!